Hi, welcome to the Spirit on Tap podcast. My name is Anna, and I am the DM for this campaign. I would like to introduce you guys to my players, ERIK.
Hello.
GINNY.
Hello.
And Helen.
Hello.
So before we start the campaign, I just kind of want to ask everyone, what are you all drinking or eating while we are going to do this session, I guess, because I'm totally not against eating and drinking during D&D.
I have a simple rum and coke and some gummy sharks.
Someone's drinking while we of course it's
Look.
I've got some lemon and ginger tea.
I am a mix of the two. I have my English breakfast tea and I have a Disaronno and Coke because I can't pick between them.
And I myself am also drinking English breakfast tea with oat milk. And I have my bottle of water as well, because DM. It's all I can say, because DM. Okay, so for anyone who is new to the podcast, this is our new podcast set in an Asian-inspired setting. I myself am half Asian, half English, and I've spent a lot of time traveling and living in Asia. So I'm using a lot of my background and my history in Asia to be able to build this world, but it is still developing. We are constantly doing more and more research all the time to either contribute to different aspects or to improve aspects of the world. So we're going to start the campaign. We're going to start with Ka. So Ka, it has been a few days since your craft was wrecked by the storm, and you woke up on a beach of an island. You've had a look around the island, and it's little more than a rock in the middle of the ocean. There isn't much greenery. There's a little bit of grass here and there on the edges of the beach, but in general there is nothing here. As you walk around in your explorations, you realize that the circumference of the island was about 100 paces. And when you walk to the middle of the island, it is the highest point. You can see quite far over the water, but there's really nothing here. There's no water. There is no real way to create shelter. On the beach with you are a few pieces of wrecked wood that you recognize come from the craft that was destroyed in the storm a few days ago. You've had a few days to really think about what happened and how you survived the storm. You've gotten accustomed to your new circumstance, but you haven't really seen anyone. You haven't been able to eat very much because there isn't any food here, and you have very limited rations left from the crash. And you've had your water flask with you as well, with what little water was left in there. Because of this, proper sleep has been kind of difficult for you to get. You've been able to get rest so that you're not exhausted, but it hasn't been quite enough for you to really be able to figure out exactly where you are based on the stars, because of the hunger and the thirst as well. Is there anything you would like to do right now? I will say that the sun has been up for a few hours. It's not quite midday yet, but I would say it's about mid-morning.
Are there any is there any wildlife in the water around the ocean, or water around the island?
I'll allow you to do a perception check. First roll.
12.
You have seen some fish around, but there isn't exactly very much for them to live in, like not much in the way of like seaweed or sand and stuff for them to actually live in. As I said, it's mostly rock around where you are. But the previous day you did see what could have been a small shark or a very, very large fish. And once in a while you have seen birds, like large birds, flying over. You would have had to, in order to fish, you need to have the equipment and to wade quite far into the water to be able to get to an area where there will be a lot of fish.
Is there enough of the wrecked wood on the beach on the rocks to create a makeshift raft?
I would say without rolling, at first glance, it would be quite a small raft, maybe I'm gonna say like 6 foot by about 3 or 4 feet, but I might get you to roll to see exactly how much of a raft you can make without messing it up. Okay, what roll would this be?
I was just curious if there was
okay,
enough.
yeah.
I'm still looking and thinking about exploring.
Yeah, I would say there's probably a couple of large planks, but nothing that's really keeping them together. So the main issue with it would be to find some way to get these planks to stay together, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think what I would like to do is I would like to wade out into the water and take the form of a creature that can live in the ocean.
So we'll say that over the last couple of days, you've been taking stock of your situation, and on this day, you've decided, I'm gonna get off this island, this rock. So you turn into a frog. Do you want to have a particular look?
I will probably have similar characteristics to what I look like as a dragonborn. Oh, I haven't described myself yet.
No.
I didn't do that.
So would you like to describe
Yeah.
what you looked like and then what you will turn into?
Yes. So Ka, who is this tall, thin, dragonborn, in the shape of a golden salamander dragonborn, but with blue scales, with small rivers of gold running through them, is going to wade out into the water and use wild shape to transform into a small frog with similar patterns across its skin, and webbed feet that just is a little more colorful than your average pond frog.
I love it. I see this tiny little blue frog.
And the plan is, and Ka is going to essentially strike out. I believe I have an hour in wild shape, and see if I can find any seaweed, any sort of objects I might be able to use to make rope or a way to lash to lash or glue the remaining pieces together.
Okay, so while you do this, I'm gonna get you to roll. I'll allow perception or investigation, depending on which one you have that's higher.
Perception it is. That is a natural 20 for a total of 25.
Okay, so I will say that you do swim out the full hour. Like, you get close to the full hour. There hasn't been very much for you to see, but towards the end of your time, you get caught on a particularly large wave that lifts you a little bit higher than most of the other waves that you've been trying to swim on. And as it lifts you up from your tiny little frog vantage point, you see what could be sails on the horizon.
All right. How far away do they look? They're on the horizon, so.
With a 20, I'll say that you think potentially another. They look like they're coming more or less in this direction, or they will be passing by you, and you'll be to their starboard side as they go past. Probably another 40 minutes with the speed that you've been going as a tiny little frog.
I suppose I shall continue in my frog form and try to catch up with them.
Okay. And with that, I am going to switch across to Atonement. So, Atonement. Oh. You've been away from your temple for a few months now. You've been traveling through the various islands, following different leads to try and complete your task. Your latest lead told you that there might be someone So, you've been traveling for a few months. You have separated from your traveling partner at this point. They're chasing another lead that says that maybe persistence of order, the Asima that you have been sent to collect or to stop, you had a lead that he's been spotted in one of two places. One, that he is making his way to a group of well-known scholars who studied the sky. Another is that he might be on his way to Malang to seek the help of a black dragonborn who is supposed to be known to the underworld there. So you've been on this ship. It is called the Water Cat. It is a 2-masted boat. I guess technically it's more of a boat. It's a junk. I'm like, it's a junk. I'm sorry. This is a 2-masted junk with crabcore style sails, and it's kind of along the side, like the lines of a very large fishing boat or a small passenger ship. And there aren't very many crew. There are maybe 5 members of the crew, which includes the captain, and you and one other individual have been passengers on this boat. As you sail, it's been quite a nice day. You know you are getting quite close to Malang. The captain said that you should be reaching the port towards the end of the day if the weather stays nice. At the moment, nothing really, I guess, catches your attention. The crew have just been relaxing, enjoying the weather because there's not a huge amount of work for them to do. What would you like to have been doing in this time? So again, sun's been up for a few hours now.
So I think Atonement from Sin gets a little bit kind of anxious on sea. Not that she's afraid of the water, just that it means that she can't see as much. For context, anyone listening, Atonement from Sin is a 6-foot tiefling, and she wears a strip of white fabric over her eyes that she uses as part of her religious rituals. That being said, it means that she cannot see using her eyes, she sees using her other senses. So I think being on a ship, she can kind of see what's going on the ship, but apart from that, she feels a bit lost, which is probably quite a scary feeling for her. So that being said, she probably would have just tried to root it herself as much as possible. So she's probably just sitting kind of in the middle of the ship, like cross-legged, and is just trying to feel and see what is going on around her, just so she feels that she has an understanding.
Sure, without making you roll or anything, you do find, I would say that over the last, because you've been on this boat for about a week and a half now, you do find like the rocking and the sound of the waves against the side of the boat somewhat comforting, despite the fact that it does unnerve you a little bit. You can feel the waves hitting the boat, as well as hear the waves hitting the boat, and you can hear some of the crew chatting below deck. They just seem to be, from what mumbled conversation you can hear without having to roll for anything, they just seem to be talking about what kind of contract they want to take next or where they want to go next. And as you are focusing and you're quiet and you're trying to center yourself, you can hear the sounds of seagulls or some kind of seabirds, which you've come to know meaning you are getting closer to land. Can I also get you to roll an investigation or a perception check, whichever is higher for you?
Ooh, yes. Let me open my jar of dice. Right. So perception or investigation, did you say?
I guess perception will probably be better, but
yeah,
if you're sitting there meditating...
Anyway. Yeah. Oh, that's bad. That's an 8 in total.
An 8. Oh, yeah. You don't hear anything out of the ordinary. However, I'm going to say, Ka, while Atonement is meditating, you've been so focused on trying to get to the boat in time a wave does catch you a little bit and kind of not necessarily throws you into the side of the boat, but kind of pushes you against it with a little bit more force than you would necessarily like.
I would like to use my cantrip Shape Water to help lessen the blow a little bit and pull myself up and just gently alight on the deck.
Okay, so as you alight on the deck, you see that you are on this boat. There are a few people around. You see a black dragonborn and a halfling chatting with each other. In the middle of the boat, you see a purple tiefling, one horn shorter than the other, with a white blindfold across her eyes. And they seem to be meditating, or at least kind of centering themselves.
At this point, I would let go of the wild shape. Just...
Oh my god, you're a frog. I forgot that you were a frog. Amazing.
And I'm just going to wait to see what the reaction is.
So, Atonement, as you are trying to center yourself, and you've been a little bit unnerved, but suddenly, I would say that you feel a slight rush of wind against your skin as something is displacing the wind near you. And then you hear the captain and the first mate shouting, and the captain is shouting, What are you doing on here? Where did you come from? Carl, you see this black dragonborn male. He looks like he's got like scars everywhere that's cutting through like his scales. And he looks like he's pointing at you, but then he starts to reach for a weapon.
I'm going to stay completely still and just in a very calm voice say, I was shipwrecked. I just need passage to the mainland.
Captain looks somewhat hesitant. I am going to roll an insight for him. You can roll a persuasion if you'd like. Oh, my dice is starting on form.
Was that a natural one?
It was a 5.
Amazing.
Makes me feel a little better because I've got a +0, so 11 for persuasion.
He kind of relaxes and he nods. You were in the storm a few days ago. We were able to pass it, but if you were shipwrecked, I'm assuming you lost your ship in that storm. Well, he kind of gives you a slight, bow of the head. Welcome aboard the Watercat. My name is Captain Lianghu. We are about half a day's journey outside of Malang. I will not charge you for this part of the ship, please.
I will give him a bow. Say, thank you. I am in your debt. And if you need any assistance, I am. You may ask me at any point.
Thank you. And you notice that he turns around. You can see some of the other crew members are running upstairs to see what's going on. But he, the first mate, is just no, it's okay. We dealt with this. And they're just now giving orders of getting ready to sort of get into dock and make sure everything is sorted and organized.
In the absence of anyone requesting my assistance, I would just slowly make my way to the bow of the ship. And just keep an eye on the waves and the birds and see if I can orient myself as to where I am.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to make you roll for this because you are pretty proficient in all of this. He said that you're about half a day's out from Malang, so you've drifted. The storm has taken you quite far from where you started off. But now that you know roughly where you are, you know where Malang is, you know the islands around it, you've been here a couple, you've not necessarily, I don't know if you have been here before, but you've definitely been by the area before. I'll let you decide whether you have actually been to if you've been into the city itself. But yeah, I would say that you're feeling more confident about knowing where you are.
Would I be able to guess approximately the direction we are approaching from?
Yeah, let me just get my map quickly. Yeah, so I'd say that you're approaching Malang from the southwest.
Beautiful. Okay. Also, if I pass the captain on the way to the bow, I would like to say, nice junk.
Thank you. I got her when I was younger, and she's seen me through some rough times. I'm gonna say, Atonement, you do hear this conversation. It's up to you if you stay still, but as Cargo, you can hear Car's footsteps. They're more pronounced to you than others because you are trained particularly in being able to hear things and feel vibrations. You do hear Car making their way towards the bow of the ship.
Yeah, I think kind of being intrigued by this weird kind of small creature that turned into a big creature, she's just going to kind of peacefully stand up and quite quietly make her way over to the bow of the ship as well, and standing kind of behind this figure, just say, "It seems that we have a stowaway on board."
Less of a stowaway, more of a hitchhiker.
What brings you out so far into the ocean?
Well, I was caught in the storm the other day. Found myself shipwrecked upon a small island, saw your boat passing, and took the opportunity to make it back to the mainland, as I have little boat of my own left.
Well, that is fair enough, I suppose. I mean, we are heading to Malang. I don't know if that's where you were planning on going, or if you can make your way from there.
I don't have any particular plans as to where I'm going, so Malang seems like a wonderful destination.
Ah, well. Hopefully we shouldn't take too much longer if these crew are honest with what they say.
What do you suspect them of?
Nothing in particular, but I don't have a real affinity for the ocean, so I will try and take their word for it, but I think I'm always a little bit skeptical.
Skepticism is a trait I can admire. What is your name?
Atonement from sin. What about you?
And Ka will pause for a moment before just saying, I am Ka.
Well, it is good to meet you, Ka.
Likewise. Come, would you like to sit with me up here and enjoy the ocean for what it is?
Yes, I think that would actually be quite nice, seeing as you seem a lot more well-versed in the ocean than I am. And yeah, she'll just kind of walk up next to Ka and just kind of not get like right next to, but you know.
Yeah, like, you know, if you've played, you know, Journey, like doing like co-meditating.
Yeah, exactly.
Cross-legged, like
just straight up vibing.
Yeah, living in the moment.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, I am going to shift us over to a certain Leonin. So,
Yes.
Bora, you have recently returned from going abroad to locate new food and new spices for the kitchens of your master Almok. You have met with him and he has given you a task. And you have the rest of your day free. His task to you was to basically gain the trust of someone that he is not particularly fond of. And all he has done is given you a name. You have your own quarters essentially within Almok's estate in the noble district of Malang. His estate is partway up of one of the mountains, a mountain called Lujian Mountain. He is well known amongst the nobles. Most people leave him to his own business as long as they do not interfere with theirs. It's a hot day, it like where you are in the mountains is not too bad. You have a breeze that comes off of the ocean, and most of the stench and the smell and just the mugginess of the day, the humidity of the day tends to stay quite low, which is one of the reasons why a lot of the nobles have built their estates kind of partway up the mountains to the north of Malang. There is a slight haze over the city itself as you look down onto the islands that make up the Malang Delta. Around you, you can hear the sounds of crickets and frogs and the general wildlife. There's a lot of forest and there's a little greenery between all of the estates. How would you like to start your day?
So, Bora, having the mission from the Lotus Father, is going to take that first night to rest, as was said, and then waking up relatively early in the morning is going to take a few moments to like sort of take in the sounds around him of just like that early morning tranquility before changing into clothes that are a little different than normal. Normally, he would wear a very clean, sort of black suit with a white undershirt to it. Today, he's going to go with more of a semi peasant's regalia. Very plain clothes. He's not going to wear the slippers which have the jade stone in them. He's going to wear more casual footwear, potentially even going barefoot. And as opposed to wearing the simple pin on his left lapel that would denote that he is of the Twilight Lotus, specifically of Almak's family, he's going to set that aside onto a shelf nearby some other small possessions of his and take a small satchel which contains his personal affect of the Dust of Deliciousness. And with that, he's going to sort of leave the front of the estate, and then just give one turn back before, just to get the last look of the estate before heading down towards the main village itself. His intent right now is to, as much as he's hesitant for it in one sense, he's more prideful that he was trusted with this mission from Father Almak to ingrate himself with the sort of lower side of the underworld once more. And knowing the history and the economy around Malang, he is going to actually check himself into one of the trading company houses to see if there are any tasks related to the particular individual beforehand.
I guess the first ports of call would be either the merchants' hall, which is, they call it the merchants' hall, but actually it's more of a small district within the merchants' district, where you can check on like trades and ships, and generally what's going on with the merchants, and check in with local gossip. Or you could take a look at the indentured servant market, which, while it's called a market, is actually more of an administration building, where the contracts for indentured servants and the indentured fighters are kept. And they're the ones who deal with a lot of the administration and making sure debts are paid, and that employers are not, like, there's a lot of employers do like to mess around a bit with the contracts, but they can only do, like, the indentured servant market, make sure that they are actually paying their dues towards these debts. And it could be somewhere where you might be able to find some information or at least some contracts in regards to the individual you've been asked to seek out. So those are, I would say, your first, potentially the first two places. And then if you wanted to, I guess, get a bit seedier, there's a couple of brothels and taverns and stuff that you could probably check into to see if they've got any gossip for you.
With how widely accepted the indentured servitude market is in Malang, the first place that Bora is going to go is to the actual administration building to try to find if there's a contract related to this individual.
All right. Roll an investigation check.
It's going to be a 12.
With a 12. Okay, so with a 12, there aren't any contract out for this particular individual. You do see a few, I wouldn't necessarily say contracts, but you do meet a couple of individuals who have got some work available for enforcers. And they've come here, like, you, without speaking to them directly, it sounds like they've come here to kind of seek informal contracts. Whereas all, like, I guess the formal contracts are usually in writing on like boards and stuff, or you will usually see an official wearing the robes of the royals would be the one handling it. So they look like they could be common street thugs wearing sleeveless shirts and pants, to try and kind of feel a little bit cooler in this heat. Like down here, especially in the indentured servant market, it is hot, and it's a little bit harder to breathe because of the humidity. And especially as a Leonin, I'm assuming you have slightly more sensitive sense of smell. And while you are kind of used to walking in and out of like these kind of areas, it always takes you a little while to sort of block out the smells of just lots and lots of people basically living on top of each other. And your fur is starting to sort of like clump together from the humidity a little
So
bit.
this is almost like a semi-personal hell for Bora right now with the sense of smell.
I mean, after a while, it doesn't. You kind of get used to it, but you know that first, like, as you go into town, it's just like, oh my god, I feel like.
As part of Bora's journey down from the estate into the general marketplace, he would have probably run some like dirt along his face to sort of like dirty himself up a little bit to look more common. And he's going to identify these contracts for any sort of enforcer level first.
Okay, so the first person that you would approach is looks like quite a young male tiefling, a dark red hue to his skin. And you can see that parts of the horn looks like it's been like chipped from like knife fights or something. But he does look quite strong and athletic. Like he looks like he knows how to fight. That's just from observing him. And as you approach, you see him like straighten up, puff out his chest a little bit, and he kind of nods you over. He's like, "Hey, I recognize you from somewhere."
Bora will give a slight bow and sort of drop his shoulders a little bit to almost come off as a little more frail. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. Surely this is the first time I've ever been in this building before.
No, it's not in the building. I think I've seen you in the fights.
Well, it's very possible that someone may have looked like me. I've heard the rumors that there were several taken from the lands to the west, but I can assure you that I have not been in these pits before that you mention.
Roll a persuasion or deception, whichever you would prefer.
I will go with persuasion. Well, that's a nat one.
Okay, let me just quickly roll for this guy's insight. 14. He looks. He's like, no. You're the foreigner, the one that fights for Almark.
And
I'm such a huge fan, and he like kind of like gives you a nod, and like the way you knocked out that last guy, oh, it was a piece of beauty.
Bora is going to put up a hand and like, I appreciate that, but I would appreciate if there is a level of discretion involved right now, if that's all the same to you.
I'm gonna make you roll persuasion again.
2!
He's like, he's like, hey, and he like turns to one of his friends. He hasn't said anything yet, so you have time to respond
Bora
to him.
is going.
But he's about
Bora
to be
is
like,
going to
hey.
grab this person's arm and like pull him close and do one of these.
Intimidation check.
I'm going to buffer this a little bit with. So the way I want to do it is I have Daunting Roar, but I'm not going to roar.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, it's going to be like a very quiet, like growl.
It's like a growl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's either your choice. Either I could roll the intimidation check, or you could roll against the skill. He would have to meet a wisdom saving throw of 13 or higher. It's your choice.
What would you prefer that this guy do? Are you going to try and intimidate him, or are you going to actually, like, would you like me to roll against your ability?
I'm going to try to intimidate him. That's probably the smarter of the two things.
Okay, if you're going to use this ability, I will give you advantage on it.
Okay, so I'll do that.
Rolls a 2.
No, significantly better this time. That's a 19 with advantage.
19. He, like, the guy is pointing at his friend almost to get his attention, and then you, like, pull him in close, and you do, like, your deep, very threatening growl, reveal a couple of your teeth. You've done this show over and over. You know what you're doing. And his skin goes a little bit pale. He's like, oh, how can I help?
Bora relaxes the clutch immediately and simply goes, I'm glad that we could reach an understanding. I have a very simple request. I've noticed that there are contracts for enforcement and for fighting. I'm curious if there are any tied to a particular individual. I'm looking for any contracts for a Mr. Chul.
I've got something. He's looking for someone. Here, and he starts to write. And I was like, can you read?
With an intelligence of 8, I believe I can read. It's if I have a 6 or lower, then I can't.
Yeah, so you can just. It's like, all right. He kind of writes on a little scrap of paper, and he hands it to you. And he's like, if you go here, you'll be able to get the information. We're just here to look for people. He'll give you what it is you need to do. And as if you were to open it, I'm assuming you're going to open it to take a look. Whatever it is you do, you see on the piece of paper, it's got the name, the Aromatic Tiger.
Aromatic Tiger. Okay.
If you want, you can roll a. I'm gonna say a history or a survival check if you want to see if you know. Would survival be the right one? Or a history check just to see if you know where this place might be, or you can roll investigation check to find out where it is.
I'll go for survival.
Survival, yeah, because as you look up from this piece of parchment, the guy's he's gone.
Okay.
What'd you roll?
That's an 18.
An 18. You've heard of the Aromatic Tiger. It's in the Poor Quarter. It is not always like really spoken of particularly highly because it's considered a place where a lot of thieves go. Thieves that are not necessarily affiliated with the Twilight Lotus, but they don't cause enough trouble to be of huge concern to the royal family or the nobles. So Almok just kind of lets them do what they do. And the Aromatic Tiger is known to be one of their like hideouts.
Okay. Bora, seeing around him that there's no more individual who's fanboying over him, is simply going to do one of the look left, look right, and then leave the administration building and head towards the Aromatic Tiger.
Okay, and with that, I'm going to end the session there. with two of you having been united. And I noticed that, Ginny, you mentioned that Kaa is probably naked, which we didn't think about.
We did not. We can
It's
talk
okay.
about that. We'll figure it out.
Who needs clothes?
Atonement from Sin literally would not have been able to know, so you're fine.
Okay, so with that, we'll
Poor boat
end
captain.
session 1 there. I'm quite liking these interactions, guys. With that, don't forget to follow us on social media. So for the podcast, our Twitter and TikTok is Spirit on Tap D&D on both. Or you can visit our website on spiritontapdnd.com for some basic profiles on the characters, maybe a bit of history, some blog updates. We'll see what we end up putting up there, but I know I'm planning to put some of the maps up there, hopefully by the time that this goes live. If not, it will be soon after. Or you can follow me out on Twitter at AnnaS100. I currently don't have a public Instagram, although I do have a photography one that you can find on my Twitter account. So what about the rest of you? Let's start with Helen.
Okay, so on Twitter I am itsongbird, and on Instagram I am songbird cosplay.
And Ginny?
I am at Ms. Ginny Liz on both Instagram and Twitter.
And Eric?
And I am at Slippers Cosplay on Twitter.
And before we finally finish for the session, is there anything anyone would like to shout out or publicize?
There's this really cool new podcast called Spirit on Tap.
Definitely check it out. It's going to be real cool to listen to.
With that, I hope everyone has a good week, and we'll speak to you in a few weeks. Hi, this is Anna, the DM and creator of the Spirit on Tap D&D podcast. Spirit on Tap D&D is a campaign inspired by Asian cultures, religions, and regions. Feel free to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Spirit on Tap D&D. I hope you have enjoyed and will continue to enjoy our adventures within Zobenxia. Thank you for listening and showing your support. We'll see you soon.